In Lesson 1, we learned a little about the classification and naming of plants, and we learned that plants that are very closely related may be classified in the same genus. The plural of genus is genera. In this lesson, we will examine the identification characteristics of many of the most common tree genera. In this lesson, trees are grouped by their leaf characteristics, but when identifying trees, it is important to use all available information in tree identification. Identifying some tree species requires recognizing relatively minor bud, flower, fruit, or twig characteristics. Other times, you might look for the type of leaf margin, shape of the leaf base, presence of hairs on the upper or lower leaf surfaces, or the color of young twigs to distinguish between two closely related species. When there are no leaves present, arborists must be familiar with characteristics of the bark, branching habit, twigs, bud scales, and even the pith to identify certain trees. Obviously, the scope of this interactive CD is limited, and it would be impossible to cover all of the genera throughout the many parts of the world where arborists care for trees. It is important for arborists to learn how to identify the trees in the regions where they will be working. This lesson will help build a strong foundation for learning to identify trees. But there is no substitute for getting out and examining and comparing trees and their various characteristics. Many books, guides, photo CDs, and other learning tools are available. It's a good idea to find reference resources for the trees in your own area. No matter which books or other guides you use, basic knowledge of tree identification terminology and principles is essential. Objectives. Describe how fundamental tree identification principles can be applied when learning to identify trees in various parts of the world. Understand the importance of applying identification principles to the actual hands-on learning of trees in your area. List the various tree characteristics that can be used in identifying trees and explain the limitations of learning trees based on leaf characteristics alone. Explain how an identification key works. Learn the basic identification characteristics of some of the most common tree genera. Gymnosperms, a group of plants without true flowers, evolved before the angiosperms. As a general rule, gymnosperms have needles, with the conifers having fruit called cones. One significant exception is Ginkgo biloba, ginkgo. Though it has a leaf blade, it is a true gymnosperm. The conifers, or cone-bearers, are often called evergreens, although bald cypress, dawn redwood, and larch are deciduous. They drop their needles in the winter. Conifers are also thought of as having needles for leaves, but some, such as junipers and cedars, have scale-like or awl-like leaves. Ginkgo, Ginkgo biloba, Ginkgo family, Ginkgo ace. Leaves are fan-shaped, alternate, and exhibit dichotomous parallel venation. Terminal buds are conical, lateral buds appear stalked. Twigs are stout, grayish-brown, and sometimes stringy in appearance. Dioecious individual trees are either male or female. Seeds are surrounded by a foul-smelling, fleshy covering on female trees. Pine, Pinus species. Pine family, Pinaceae. Needles are evergreen and in bundles of 2, 3, or 5. Seeds are winged and formed in woody cones. Cones are oblong to triangular. Branches grow in whorls at nodes. Larch, Larix species. Pine family, Pinaceae. Needles are deciduous, pale green, and radially arranged, appearing bundled. Needles are short and soft in the summer, and knobby shoots in the winter. Cones are small, 1 to 2 inches, or 2 to 5 centimeters, abundant, and persistent for many years. Habit is upright, with slender, irregular branches with gray to brown scaly bark. Cedar, Cedrus species. These are the true cedars as opposed to the eastern red cedar, Juniperus virginiana. Pine family, Pinaceae. Evergreen needles are clustered and triangular in cross-section with rows of white dots. Cones are oblong to oval, upright on branches. Branches droop at tips, and bark is smooth, dark gray, becoming fissured and scaly. Hemlock, Tsuga species. Pine family, Pinaceae. Evergreen needles are small and dark with blunt tips and two parallel stripes on the lower surface. Foliage lays flat on branches, forming layered branches. Small 1 inch or 2.5 centimeter cones form near ends of branches. Spruce, Picea species. Pine family, Pinaceae. Evergreen needles are short, sharp, pointed at tip, single, square, four-sided, and spiraled around stem, the 5 S's of spruce. Foliage is dark green to blue-gray. Seed is winged in oblong pendulous cones. Douglas fir, Pseudotsuga menziesii. Pine family, Pinaceae. Needles are flattened and dark green to bluish-gray. Buds are large, conical, and pointy. Tips of needles are blunt to notched. Seed is winged with a 3-pointed bract sticking out of the scales of the cone. Fir, Abies species. Pine family, Pinaceae. Evergreen needles are flattened, blunt, or notched at tip. Needles are generally arranged spirally on branches and feel like plastic. Cones are formed in the tops of trees, are erect on branches, and disintegrate when ripe. Bald cypress, Taxodium disticum. Cypress family, Cupressaceae. Needles are light green, soft, flat, and arranged in a single layer on deciduous branchlets. Branchlets are arranged in an alternate pattern on branches. Cones are round, 1 to 2 inches, 2.5 to 5 centimeters, and disintegrate when ripe. Dawn redwood, Metasequoia glyptostroboides. Cypress family, Cupressaceae. Needles are light green, soft, flat, and arranged in a single layer on deciduous branchlets. Needles are slightly larger than Taxodium. Branchlets are usually arranged in opposite pairs on branches. Cones are 3/4 to 1 1/4 inches, 2 to 3 centimeters, round, and persist after opening. Arbor vitae, Thuya species. Cypress family, Cupressaceae. Scale-like evergreen leaves form flattened branches. Cones are ovoid with leathery scales. Bark is thin and fibrous. Arbor vitae can be a small shrub to a large tree, depending on the species and cultivar. Juniper, eastern red cedar, Juniperus species. This is not a true cedar. See Cedrus species. Cypress family, Cupressaceae. Needles are scale-like or awl-like, sharp, pointed. Cone is round, berry-like, and bluish. Bark is thin and fibrous. They can be ground covers to large trees. Angiosperms are plants that have true flowers, their seeds developing in an ovary, fruit. As a general rule, most angiosperms native to temperate regions are deciduous, or lose their leaves in the winter. However, like most tropical angiosperms, some temperate region angiosperms retain their leaves all year and are considered broad-leaved evergreens. Most trees in this group have an alternate leaf arrangement, but first we will look at those with an opposite leaf arrangement. One memory aid that includes most, but not all, of the genera of trees with opposite leaf arrangements in temperate regions is mad horse, which stands for maple, ash, dogwood, and horse chestnut. However, other regions of the world have many genera with opposite leaf arrangement. Opposite leaf arrangement is an excellent and reliable tree identification tool. Maple, Acer species. Maple family, Aceraceae. Leaves are always opposite. Leaves are lobed and have a palmate vein arrangement or are pinnately compound. Fruit is a samara joined in pairs, occasionally in trios. Buckeye, horse chestnut. Aesculus species. Horse chestnut family, Hippocastanaceae. Leaves are opposite, coarsely toothed, and palmately compound. Ripe fruits have a leathery, prickly husk with 1 to 3 dark brown, shiny nuts. Terminal flower clusters are often quite showy. Terminal buds are large at the ends of branches, which curve down before tipping up. Ash, Fraxinus species. Olive family, Oleaceae. Leaves are opposite and pinnately compound, except one cultivar of one species is simple. Terminal buds are large and pyramidal. Axillary scars are prominent. Fruit is a samara found in large clusters. Dogwood, Cornus species. Dogwood family, Cornaceae. Leaves are opposite except for one species, simple and entire. Flowers are small, yellow, and in clusters, often surrounded by 4 bracts, look like petals, ranging in color from yellowish to pink. Dogwood can be a ground cover to a medium-sized tree. Catalpa, Catalpa species. Trumpet creeper family, Bignoniaceae. Leaves are very large, heart-shaped, and opposite to whorled. Flowers are white, in large clusters, look like an orchid, and have purple and yellow spots. Fruits are long, narrow, cylindrical pods opening to liberate winged seeds. Crepe myrtle, Lagerstroemia species. Loosestrife family, Lythraceae. Leaves are opposite to subopposite, occasionally alternate, near tips. Leaf blades are entire and oval with petioles, quarter-inch, 0.635 centimeters, long or less. White or pink to deep red flower petals are wavy like crepe paper. Bark is exfoliating when young, becoming smooth and greenish-gray with age. Ligustrum, privet. Ligustrum species. Olive family, Oleaceae. Leaves are dark green, opposite and deciduous or evergreen. Flowers are white, borne in panicles, summer, and unpleasantly scented. Fruit is berry-like and black, maturing in the fall. Privets can be trees or shrubs. Some are highly invasive. Jacaranda, Jacaranda species. Trumpet creeper family, Bignoniaceae. Leaves are opposite, bipinnately compound, and evergreen or deciduous. Flowers are showy, blue to violet, rarely white. Fruit is a leathery, flattened capsule containing winged seeds.